It's time for those Friday night lights. NewsWest 9's Game Time is back for yet another week of high school football action, but this is not any old week, folks. It's another round of the playoffs. Jenna Alike is here to get you ready to take you through a full slate of the area round matchups here. Jenna, a lot of teams in action here locally. Time to find out how they did.
That's right, Alex. There are a bunch of teams that are win and go home matchups. Definitely a make or break week for many teams. This will be our last week of Game Time, but we're not sad. We're treating ourselves with a lot of great football action. We'll see you coming right up.
Mic check on Aaron. Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check, mic.
Well, all good things must come to an end eventually, and unfortunately that cliche also applies to our beloved Game Time. Welcome to Week 13. Tonight's all about area round football, defining week in any team's playoff journey. And our Game Time crew has a front row seat as always. Aaron stayed local tonight for Midland High's contest against Byron Nelson. Jason took the trip out to Shotwell Stadium in Abilene for Permian and North Crowley. And Tyler went out to Seminole to check in on the undefeated Monahans team versus Sweetwater. And this has been the best season for the Bulldogs since 2016. Coach Fortune's squad has already collected a by-district trophy this season. Next goal, of course, an area-round gold ball. This is a tall task. Byron Nelson came into tonight undefeated and ranked in the state at number 7. Aaron Gelvin has been out in the Tall City probably all evening. You saw him at 5, you saw him at 6. He's here with us at 10. He has more insight and an answer on whether or not the mission was accomplished. Aaron?
Well, the Dogs hosting their second straight playoff game, and Midland High School looking to continue their best season since 2016. Standing in their way tonight, the 7th-ranked team in the state, Trophy Club Byron Nelson. And let's take a look at those highlights from our first half. Byron Nelson and Midland High, the Bobcats and the Bulldogs. One team will walk out of here as area champions. The Dogs showing all kinds of moxie to start this game, forcing a fumble by the Cats and then pounding it into the end zone with Elijah McCoy from a yard out. Not loading up the box on the goal line to stop McCoy tonight is a bad idea, right? Elijah says thank you very much and puts MHS on top. To the second quarter we go, and the Bobcats driving in a tie ball game. An explosive play here gets them into the strike zone, and Byron Nelson finishes the drive with a touch pass to the corner of the end zone, and they would take a 14-7 lead. Third down with MHS trying to jumpstart a drive, but the Bobcat defense turns away the run. The purple and gold would go into the locker room at halftime, trailing by just a touchdown against the number 7 team in the state of Texas. I'm here with the head coach of the Midland High Bulldogs. Coach, not the way you wanted this night to go, but what can an experience like this do for you guys going forward when you're back in the playoffs in the future?
Well, you just really you can't say enough about what it'll do. There's no way to replicate this. Just the the tension, the weight on every play, the magnitude of your mistakes when you make them, and then also on the other side, just how important it is when you make good plays. And so we were able to do both of those things tonight. Obviously, we made more mistakes than big plays, and that's kind of how football always breaks.
Well, the Bulldogs would fall tonight by a final score of 35-7. Byron Nelson just too much in the second half. They won that second half by a score of 21-0. But the future very bright here for the purple and gold. This was year 3 under head coach Thad Fortune, and they made the playoffs. They won a playoff game. They were extremely competitive in District 2 6A after missing the postseason and just winning 1 game in that same district a year ago. So they are certainly on the ascent. This is a team that feels like they are just coming and climbing as fast as they can to continue to build towards some more playoff victories. Coach Fortune said this was a great experience for them to get to see a team like this that was ranked very highly in the state, to have this kind of atmosphere 2 weeks in a row for a home playoff game, and to be able to just see what it's like in the playoffs. They hadn't had this group in this arena yet, obviously, here in just year 3. That wraps it up for Midland High's season, and that's going to wrap it up for me here at Astound Broadband Stadium tonight. We'll take things back to the studio.
Well, you can, of course, see that full interview with head coach Thad Fortune on our digital platforms, NewsWest9.com, and then our Game Time tab, along with all the other interviews. But let's continue on and look up and down that state rankings list. Permian, well, it had its work cut out for itself against number 6, North Crowley, out in Abilene. Jason Freund is live out at Shotwell Stadium on the Panthers versus Panthers clash for an area championship. Jason, how'd it go?
All right, yeah, Jenna, you said that Permian had their work cut out for them, and yes, they certainly did have their work cut out for them as they were facing one of their toughest opponents in the 6th ranked in all of Texas, the North Crowley Panthers. Now, this was a tough game for Mojo as they just weren't able to get their running game going. A lot of looks for running back Justice Larza, but that D-line for North Crowley really clamped down and shut down any types of offense that Permian was trying to go for. You'll see in these first half highlights. Permian won last week. Now they advance and square off against the North Crowley Panthers. North Crowley is going to strike first. Chris Jimerson dancing out of the pocket, throws on the run, and finds DeCorian West Davis. That's going to be ruled a touchdown. Quick 7-0 lead for North Crowley. Permian offense slow out the gate, but a quick pass from Jacob Garcia to Isaiah Welton gets them inside the 10-yard line. 4th down, Permian's gonna go for it. Pass to Herrera is just a bit short of the end zone. They'd settle for the field goal. North Crowley back on the attack. Kimmerson fakes the handoff, keeps it himself, and his O-line is gonna clear the way for a quick touchdown run. Now Permian's defense has been holding him, and North Crowley back in the red zone. Jimerson will keep the ball again, running away from Permian defenders, slips back into the end zone. North Crowley would take a 21-3 lead. All right, now in that second half, Permian's defense had been holding and had been playing a fantastic game in the first half, but North Crowley's offense was just too much for them to handle as they were bending and bending. And eventually they did unfortunately break, as North Crowley did go on to win this game at 63-10 and will be moving on to the next round. However, this was still a very special season and a very successful season for Coach Ellison's squad, as they had a winning record and did make it to the postseason, and they took home a postseason win in this game. Certainly a lot of momentum to build off of going into next year for the next football season. Send it back to the studio, Jenna.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Tough way to go for our first two 6A schools, but round 2 of the postseason rolls on and out in Seminole, where undefeated Monahans look to remain unbeaten. That and more next.
We're the Middle High Bulldogs, and you're watching Game Time on NewsWest 9. OYB.
Well, the treacherous path to Dallas continued tonight with round 2 of the playoffs. And there was a bunch of roadblocks. Let's check back into action. All right, Monahans is on a roll yet again this season, still undefeated and state ranked. Did the streak continue tonight against Sweetwater? Well, that's where we bring in this familiar face, Tyler Dupnick. He's been covering the Lobos on multiple occasions this season, so no better way to go out than to check in on Monahans. Tyler, how did the boys in green do?
Yeah, Jenna, Monahans came into tonight playing outstanding football, rolling through district play. They've won every game this year by at least 21 points, and more times than not, it's been by a whole lot more than that. We know as the playoffs go on, it's going to be a tougher road down the stretch, so would tonight be the night where the Lobos would play a close game? The Monahans faithful traveling well to watch their undefeated Lobos in round 2 of the postseason. A quiet, confident run out. Gino Navarrete and a quarterback ready to lead his squad against the 7-4 Sweetwater Mustangs. After a couple of lackluster drives, this is the first down of the game for the Lobos. Navarrete bouncing one outside and sprinting for a 50-yard gain. Very next play, here's Chino up the middle line. Fantastic blocking, nearly untouched. He's in. Lobos on the board. 7-6 at this point as they answer an early Mustangs touchdown. Now the Mustangs back on offense. Tips and overthrows. Gotta have him. Intercepted. This one picked up by Jesse Rodriguez. Blocked to the back would negate the run back. But now on offense, Navarrete trying to create magic with his legs. No, he's a dual threat. Airing one out. Ben Cordova. He's got it right in your wheelhouse. Into the pylon for the touchdown. 14-7 Lobos at this point. Now taken away. Great pass, Stevens. Here's a bone-crushing sack by Braden Milleron. This ball is loose. This is a 4th down, but hey, let's scoop this thing up, right? Absolutely. Scooped up on the play. by Nathan Marquez. 72 yards for the score, 22-7 at that point. Here's Cole Pittman with a quick 3-yard rushing touchdown. We'll get him in the highlight reel here. And it's Pittman again, handoff from Navarrete. He's in, banging his way for 6, 35-7 Lobos at the break. Final score tonight from Wigwam Stadium, Monahans 56, Sweetwater 13. Just another thrashing by the Lobos. Ho-hum, right? Just continue to cook. 12-0 now, area champions for the 3rd consecutive season. I got a chance to catch up with quarterback Chino Navarrete afterwards. I asked about that slow start. He said, they expect adversity, here in the postseason, but they know how to respond to it, and obviously they did. They went on to roll in the first half and obviously the rest of the game as well. He talked about how great their defense was, the complimentary football, the turnovers. They just feed on all that momentum. I asked him about being area champions for the 3rd consecutive season, and he told me, it's great, but we're on to the next one. That's just, kind of the identity of this Monahans team, just an absolute machine, totally businesslike, absolutely professional. That full interview is going to be on our Game Time tab on NewsWest9.com later tonight, so be sure to check it out there. 7 playoff wins now in the last 3 seasons for Monahans. Jenna, they're on to the regional playoffs. They show plenty of moxie tonight, and they're rolling on here in the postseason. The Monahans Lobo is just an absolute train right now.
Well, thank you so much, Tyler. Alpine won a thriller last week to collect the gold ball. The next obstacle for more hardware comes in the form of a very strong 7-4 Idalou team. Coach Smith and the boys trailed early, but the Bucks in the red zone. Devon Rojo links up with Auden Ramirez to cut the deficit down 8-6, and the big, strong Wildcats push back, though. Hunter McWilliams trots his way in for 6 to stretch the lead back out 15-6 in the first. Alpine continue to battle. Rojo hits Reese Atherens in the numbers to shave the Idaho lead back down to just 3-15-12. It would be a tough second half for the Bucks, though. The season ends here with the 64-18 loss to Idaho. And over at the home of the Steers, Crane and Lubbock Roosevelt squared off for an area championship. The Cranes up 7-0 early, but the Eagles answer here. Bramden Raven squeaks in. Basin team still up 7-6. Crane back on offense. Tyson Brents locates Kevin Iniguez, and the senior takes the ball just short of the end zone. You'll see here he'll get taken down right inside the 5. Crane doesn't whiff on the next opportunity, though. Trey Larson finds a hole and bursts into the land of 6 for the 14-6 advantage. The defense came to play too. Kyle Duran is going to swarm around the outside for the strip sack, and then Carlos Alvarez is going to recover for the Cranes. But it would be a second half defensive clinic for the Eagles as they would win 20-14. All right, coming up next, there's still action to go over, and we'll even look back on Thursday night football play. Also, we'll look forward to Midland Legacy's Saturday game next.
We're the Monahans Lobos, and you're watching Game Time on NewsWest 9. Go Lobos!
Welcome back to our last week of 2023 Game Time. It's time to check in on some contests that will be played later in the week on Saturday. Let's start with the last Basin 6A team standing in Midland Legacy. They're the last team standing as of right now. LHS is set for a Saturday kickoff at 4 p.m. That's tomorrow, of course, against Euless Trinity to keep the District 2 6A teams from complete elimination. The Trojans and Rebels are no strangers. Trinity knocking off Legacy and knocking them out of the playoffs in 2017 and 2020, and that's just in recent history. This version of Coach Hartman's squad would like to slay this dragon. The game could and probably will be dictated by the battle in the trenches. The rushing attack and run stopping ability will both be keys for the Basin squad. This contest will be played out in Bedford. We'll have updates from this contest tomorrow night at 10. And turning the page back just for a moment to Thursday night under the lights, Balmorhea is off to the regional rounds with the thrashing of Silverton 78-43. This makes the Bears area champs. The local team will play Klondike in the regional quarters next week. And Andrews laced up the cleats last night too, and the result wasn't favorable in the 56-14 loss to Decatur. The Mustangs fall in the area round and capped off the 2023 season at 500. All right, so it was a tough night for some of our Basin squads, but no fear because our last installment of Top Plays for 2023 is coming up next.
We're the Wink Wildcats, and you're watching Game Time on NewsWest 9. Go Cats! Yeah, let's go, big boys! Come on, Cats!
Well, it all comes down to this, the best in the form of top plays. This will be the final week that will feature these big time plays, but keep an eye on our social media channels. There will be a bracket with all of the winners to determine the top play of the year. Before we get ahead of ourselves though, let's jump into our last entries. And the Lobos continue the tear and add another top play nomination for the year. Chino Navarrete flashes some magic and escapes and throws on the run to Ben Cordova, who hauls it in for 6. And then moving on to the defense, and the group from Crane was on top of it early in this game. Kyle Duran hot off the edge for the strip sack, and Carlos Alvarez jumps on the ball for the recovery. And finally, some Thursday night football on the 6-man field. Isaiah Mendoza is almost impossible to bring down on this play. He ends up steamrolling himself inside of the red zone. The NCAA Division II playoffs are coming here to the Permian Basin in less than 24 hours. The Falcon football team looks to continue its magical season. The next test is a win or go home game against Bemidji State at Astound Broadband Stadium at 1 p.m. Aaron and I will both be there and have a full slate of coverage from the action, and more tomorrow coming up at 10. Let's hear from head coach Chris McCullough about what he expects from his squad.
Our guys don't feel pressure, and I don't see them feeling the pressure of the first-round playoffs either. I mean, we played Central Washington for a conference title and won by 4 touchdowns, so I don't think pressure is going to get to them. I'm just excited to see what players are the best, us or Bemidji's.
And that's a wrap on the 2023 edition of Game Time. Be sure to check out our NewsWest9.com website under the Game Time tab. That's where you'll find full interviews. That's all we got for you for this year, but we'll be keeping up with the remaining teams next week. We'll see you then.